The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We're here tonight for our first non-rainy Dukes Court in a good couple months. Had a week off where last week it was again raining incredibly, so we'll just blame it on that. Although there's some nice dark clouds out there, Fletch, coming on us. So I'm joined tonight by my co-host Chris, the Sofa King Fletcher, who is celebrating his new addition to the house.
Oh, big red. Big red is the key.
Oh, nothing better than a good sofa to watch a game. Nothing better. But we'll soon be joined, a little delayed, Gary the Troubadour Kinn. And I'm Dave Manimal Finoli. Welcome tonight, Fletch, the Sofa King. Tell me about the sofa.
Well, the sofa is a little dangerous, Dave. It's actually, you would think it would be good for sporting events, but it's not because it is so comfortable. If you get into that prone position, you are prone to fall asleep. It is a little more than I can handle. It's the memory foam is just it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's a memory foam.
It's a memory foam sofa.
Oh my God, very nice. Yeah, that is a problem with those, but you know, on the other end, if you need to sleep on the couch, man, it's always nice when the couch is comfortable. Well,
so far I've not gotten in any trouble that would send me to the couch for an overnight, but you know, it's still pretty new, so who knows what could happen with that.
Well, it's a power move, my friend. It's a power move. The other power move is we're going to talk a little about the new NHL season tonight. You know, probably in the four sports, I love Penguin hockey, but probably not the one sport I get into as much. But I got to admit, Gary has got me fired up about the NHL this year.
Well, and he's done that to me as well, and also I've been watching some boxing, which, you know, as you know, we used to have the big boxing get-togethers, but I'm coming back to the sport, Dave.
I agree with you. He's got me on that too. He was talking about some $9.99 a month app where you get several boxing things. I may get it. He's got me a little fired up. Although I was going to ask you, apparently there's a big card in Pittsburgh, so I sent it to him to see if you and I should go to it. But he ixnayed it because I guess it was a lot of guys who were 1-0, and the minimum ticket was $100, which I didn't notice up front. But
wow,
yeah, $100 for guys who are 1-0, probably not the best investment, But yeah, no, he's got me fired up. I project one time within the next year, you and I will be calling Pasquale up for a pay-per-view.
I think it's bound to happen.
As long as it's not what the hell is it? UFA? What the hell is that the thing where I guess it's a mixture between studio wrestling and?
Yeah, I'm not there yet. Not there.
I don't know that I ever will be there. UFC, I see here.
Yeah, it's to me, it's not the sweet time.
No, absolutely not. But we'll talk a little about hockey tonight. You know, I was looking through, kind of getting up to par on some of the other teams, and you know, I'm going to go through my top my top four, my final four in each conference. In the East, I'll give you my top five because the Penguins, I still think, are going to be in the top four. But in the West, you know, the Sharks made a great move getting Carlson from Ottawa. Right now, you got two of the best defenders in the game in Carlson and Burns. You got some deep scoring with Couture, Pavelski, Kane, Meyer. You have a really solid all-around team. Jones, who was very good for the most part against the Penguins a couple years ago in the finals. struggled a little last year, but I think he certainly can come around. I think that'd be their one weakness. They go up against the Kings, who had the league's best goals against last year. Quick has been just a stud. He's been a star, elite in the playoffs last year. He pretty much was a one-man show in their first-round loss. They're only number 16 in scoring, though, so that's where he needs to be. So elite needs to be a one-man team, and in my mind, while a lot of people are picking the Kings to win the West, I can't imagine with an offense like that they're going to do it. The Predators won the President's Cup, which is the death knell for most.
That's like being the cover of the Madden video game. You're dead.
Exactly. Have you ever seen such a curse of having the best record in a league in any sport?
Just incredible that happens all the time.
Man, it's ridiculous. But they have a great penalty kill. They have probably the best top four, led by Subban. Probably the best top four defenders in hockey. Decent scoring depth with Forsberg leading the way. Fiala, Arvidsson certainly playing well. And Rennie is in a contract year. Had a little meltdown in the playoffs against Winnipeg last year, as he certainly did in a couple games against the Penguins in the final the year before. But he's in a contract year, which certainly could pave the way for him being especially sharp as we go on. And then Winnipeg, who came out of nowhere last year, and with Lane, who might just be the new greatest scorer in hockey. At 19 years old, he scored 44 goals last year. They were just a solid offensive team. And second in the league in scoring. Connor Schiffley was also pretty solid, but Lane, he looks to be that superstar that could take it to the next level. The depth in Vegas, who had such a surprise year last year, I don't see them repeating that. I think they're going to be in the playoffs, but slipping a little bit. But to me, it comes down to there are three teams here that are capable of winning a Stanley Cup. And whereas the strength has been in the East, I think it's now taken a turn to the West with these three teams. It's very close to pick between them, Winnipeg, Nashville, and San Jose. But there, I'm going to say Carlson and Burns. Defense wins titles, and I'm going to say that's probably the best twosome in hockey. Pretty solid below that. I'm going to give them a nudge over the Predators to go on to the Stanley Cup final in the West. In the East, the Caps have figured out how to win, and to me, in any sport, when you figure out how to win a title, that's the key. That's the secret. That's why the Patriots go to the Super Bowl when they seem to have less than stellar players, because Brady's certainly the best in the game today, but they know how to win. They know how to get to a championship, and the Caps have finally learned that. They've always had maybe not the fastest talent, but they have a solid, big team that has some speed, and you could see that even in the opener against the Penguins, where they just kind of barreled over the Penguins on several times. They played well as a team. My thing with them is I was talking to Gary a little before the opening game against Washington, and said I have some doubts about Holtby, and he certainly looked every much as every had difficulty against the Penguins, and that's to me he had difficulty last year. They traded away the guy who was challenging him, so that could come to pardon my language, bite him in the ass. I think obviously Tampa probably has the most talent in the East. They're the number one offensive unit. Stamkos stayed healthy last year, and he certainly looked the part of a star. I think that's key this year. Kucherov and Point at 22 both looked very solid. You got Hedman and Sergachev certainly two of the top defensemen, so that's a fairly deep team. Great goaltending. To me, the surprise team, and if they find a defense, could be the surprise team to get out of the East would be Toronto, which at this point in time with Matthews, Tavares, and Kadri finally probably are the equal, if not better, than the Penguins down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anderson, who faced probably more shots than anybody in the league, I think he did face as many shots, but he came up big. I think he's a solid goaltender. Defense is young, so if they can improve, I think Toronto has a shot to get out of there. But a lot of people say Columbus is. I think this Hockey News is touting them as the best team in the Metro, but I don't see it. I think
I don't either.
No. I think the Caps. The Caps certainly are getting a little older. I think Reardon replacing Trotz might hurt him down the stretch. I thought Trotz was an excellent coach. He took a lot of crap he didn't deserve. And I think the Penguins are going to be in there. And we'll talk about them a little after we certainly hear your NHL little synopsis. But I think Tampa and the Penguins will be in the semi. I think Tampa takes it. I think Tampa defeats Nashville and becomes the Stanley Cup champions. But I will say if Toronto can figure out the defense, I think Toronto brings a first NHL championship to the city since, I believe, 1967 was their last one. How do you see the NHL laying out, Fletch?
Well, you talked about the power moving to the West. I still think that the power's in the East. You have three teams in the East. You have Tampa Bay, Washington, and the Penguins. I think these three are the most balanced teams of any. And if any of them were to emerge to the Stanley Cup round, final round, I wouldn't be surprised. I really think that one of those three teams are going to win the Cup. I like the Pens a lot, but the core in Tampa is a little bit younger. The Penguins didn't get screwed from the schedulers this year, so I think they'll be fresher for a deep playoff round. Plus, they didn't play as many postseason games, so they got a little bit of a respite there. I agree with you as far as the coaching situation in Washington. I think that could be a negative. The talent's still there, but I think the Pens will take them out yet again in the playoffs. For me, some other teams to look at, Florida continues to improve. They missed the postseason by a single point last year. They've already got a solid core in place. They also added a few nice complementary pieces in the offseason. Mike Hoffman, that's a dangerous offensive piece to add to that lineup. And you have a kid who was in the KHL All-Star game, a defenseman, Bogdan Kiselevich, if I'm pronouncing that right. Carolina.
That's the problem with hockey, though, isn't it?
It is.
You never know if we're pronouncing these names right.
And, and the other thing with hockey, and this used to be the thing, used to be the stereotype is, well, if they came from Sweden, they were definitely soft.
Right.
So you had a lot of those things.
Yeah. But go on.
I think Carolina's another team to look at. Carolina does this funny thing. They're down, they're up. I think they're in bounce back mode again. They made a couple major additions to their blue line, so they're a little bit tougher on defense. They get Hamilton, who's one of the best young defensemen in the league. They also added Michael Furland, whose stock is on the rise because he's heading into a contract year, and we know what happens there. They also may have a potentially elite offensive talent in, oh boy, this one's going to be a tough one, Svechnikov. Wow, I need to know about that one. But here's the problem with them. They didn't really do much to address their problems in net, so unless Cam Ward's available for them, I don't know that they're going to be making that move this year, but they're definitely a team to look at. You mentioned Vegas. Last year, that was a story for the ages, but frankly, you can't expect a repeat. Honestly, this really should be a given. They rode Marc-Andre Fleury and that whole why not us attitude with a chip on their shoulder all the way to the Stanley Cup final last year. So it seems fair to expect somewhat of a drop off. With athletes, they call it a sophomore slump. But
right.
With a team, I've never heard of a second year team doing this. So they had a pretty decent off season, but in signing Paul Stastny, but, can Fleury be as dominant? Can those cast-offs still have that same chip? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they can live up to last year.
I think I don't think Fleury can have as good a year, but I think your second point is pretty much spot on because they weren't cast-offs. I mean, they weren't the most talented team on paper, but to get that kind of effort 2 years in a row is very difficult. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and speaking of not living up to last year, I mean, the Devils snuck in, but I see them taking a step back. They were almost single-handedly that Taylor Hall took them to the postseason. He had nearly double the points of every other player on the roster. And I don't know if they've done anything to improve their depth or their roster in general. I think they've gotten worse while the rest of the East, other playoff hopefuls, they either improved or they treaded water, which means, that the Devils, I think, are going backwards. This is going to be sound kind of crazy too, but I don't believe in Boston either. I mean, is Chara older than us? I think he might be.
He looked all his age too in the opener.
I'm not saying that they're not one of the top teams in the league. Here's the problem: is that it's the division that they're in. They might have the third best team in their own division. The Lightning, the Maple Leafs look like powerhouses. The top of that division has become somewhat of an arms race, and the Bruins they're just not keeping up with that.
No, I would agree with you.
And speaking of Toronto, here's something that's always bothered me. Why aren't they the Maple Leafs? Why is it the Maple Leafs? Come on, Canadians, get that shit together.
You know what? Exactly. They have had the chance how many years to correct that?
They did. You think an original six would be up there?
Yeah. Exactly.
Also, looking in the West, I think the Wild is due for another one of their patented first-round exits. They just can't seem to get it done in the postseason.
No.
I think the Sharks are the most likely the team to come out of the West. I like the acquisition of Carlson. A lot of pundits are even giving him the Conn Smythe already. But Dave, let me tell you, the person who's going to be carrying that bit of hardware will be one Sidney Crosby. Because the Pens are going to win it in 7 at home for a change over the Sharks in a rematch of 2016. There's my bold prediction a little bit early. That
is a bold prediction. I'll tell you, and that leads us into the Penguin talk. They're an offensive machine. I mean, when Phil Kessel is on your third line. And I know he spent some time on the second line in the opener, but they're interchangeable. I mean, Daniel Sprong is pretty much the guy that makes you worry at this point because of his defensive liabilities. But Hornquist and Gensel, I think, is going to be a beast this year. I think he's going to be a 40-goal guy. He's got a shot. He positions himself well in front of the net. I just love watching a kid play. Sidney Crosby.
Well, he's a coach's son. I mean, they tend to play above their talent level. Yeah,
absolutely, and he does. And he's, Hornquist looked a little slow the first couple games. I don't know if that's just rust at the beginning of the year. I sure as hell hope it's not him slowing down, but I would tend to think it's just a little rust at the beginning of the year. Malkin looked tremendous. Again, I didn't see any of the Canadian game, but to me, Malkin and Brassard were the two best players in that game. And Brassard, if he is back to the level that he can play at, that's just three incredible lines. Rust was creating opportunities. I've always kind of liked Simone. I think he's a gritty guy that can get in there and again create opportunities himself. Sheehan played well down the stretch. Cullen, he's
a locker room guy. He's a locker room guy.
But he looks decent in the.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Dave. The thing that I'm always confident on is that you have a general manager who's going to make a move that's going to get your team ready for the postseason. And, we've been pretty spoiled by general managers here in terms of making those deals that close out championships and lead to deep playoff runs. And, I remember we had the conversation when they brought Rutherford in. We thought there's a guy that maybe the game had passed him by. Things in Carolina seemed to go south really quickly. But I'm here to say today I was wrong. He's been a great acquisition and really has done so much for this team, and he seems to be a shrewd negotiator as well as a great judge of talent. And often in general managers and front office people, they tend to have one of those things. Like they may be a great judge of talent, but they can't pull a deal. Right. And he's a guy who's able to juggle both of those equally well.
Well, think about what he's done. I mean, when he came in, and you and I were both not happy with that pick. I mean, we weren't. And,
oh yeah.
But that team was about to rebuild. That team, you were talking about trading Malkin. You were talking about, breaking down the team and rebuilding it and having some losing times. And have you ever seen a rebuild so quick? In a month, they went from a team that was about to be broken up to the best team in the NHL by dipping in to a farm system that we had always been told was bad.
The other thing, too, that I like about the Penguin philosophy is that they played the same system with their farm team as well. So they're able to plug people in. They're going to know what their roles are pretty quickly. I mean, I think that was one of the difficulties last year in the playoffs with Broussard. He was trying to feel out his way. He wasn't an immediate good fit for this team. I think what we're seeing in the first couple of games that there's a better comfort level, and I think he's fitting in much, much better.
I would agree, and and with him there, I mean, you're every bit as strong. I mean, you are probably 1A and 1B with Toronto down the middle, but I mean, I would tend to put our depth at wing maybe a little ahead of theirs. When you can put three lines that are every bit as good as a lot of people's second and first, that's scary. That's a scary.
It's a matchup nightmare, particularly if you're at home and you have that last change. That's a tough thing, very tough thing.
Absolutely, and I mean, let's not forget Aston Reese, who was certainly one of the most coveted NCAA free agents in 2017, and he showed some flashes last year. So I mean, you got depth here. I mean, you got that grit guys. You got what you need there. Derek Grant has certainly supposedly been impressive in training camp. So there's a guy you can go to in case of injury. Where it's a little concerning, the defense looked really out of sorts 2 games in a row. Definitely against Washington. As I said, I didn't catch any of the Canadian game, but I mean, Mata just kind of struggled. Johnson, again, hopefully he's just trying to fit into the system as Broussard was last year. He looked a little out of sorts. There was
he played a lot of minutes. That's the one thing that I was impressed with, because at this time of year, we don't want Chris Letang logging those minutes.
No, and they're trying to make a concerted effort for him not to.
And he looks better.
And they're quality players. And again, you take away, Murray had probably the worst game that I've seen him have in that opener. I mean, 4 of those goals were not good goals.
They were tasty frees. They were softies.
They absolutely were. No better projection. So you really should have beat the hell out of Washington. You had the better opportunities.
Well, here's the other thing about Murray. He's going to need to show the league that he can handle high glove hand, or else he's going to be seeing that all year. And that's his. That's where he got beat a couple times, kind of solidly. Although he made a comment before the game, I forget who was interviewing him, but he made the comment that he was surprised everybody was complaining of his glove hand, because he thought the 5-hole was where he had the problems. And wouldn't you know, 3 of the soft goals were right where he jinxed himself. The one thing I can't wait to see myself is everybody's
talking about Ricola, how good he's been.
Well, they just want to say his name, first of all. They want to do it like that, the cough syrup.
Yeah. I can see that as certainly an arena special. But
no side you go, mind you.
Oh, is there anything better than that chant?
There is none.
The famed Bill Rainier bringing that back. Why did it never catch on?
I don't know. And there's no more shoo-shoo rah-rahs either. You know, what the hell?
Well, we're bringing that back this year. Of course, then you're just old men screaming that to a bunch of kids that don't know what the hell you're saying. That'll be the problem. We'll be cartoon characters at that point.
There you go.
Oh man, but you're right. I mean, Murray holds the key. I think the Smith is solid. I think Jari has struggled, but he certainly shows some talent. That they're good as backup, but if you're depending on them for more than that, you're in a lot of trouble. So hopefully he stays healthy. I think I personally think he's going to be just fine. Just having a little slump early on, but I definitely see this as a Final Four team. I hope you're correct on it, and that they are hoisting a third cup, because realistically the window has about 2 or 3 more years at best.
Right.
Before you.
But, you know, think about it. At one point we were talking about, was this an underachieving era of Penguins hockey? And look where we are now.
All the championships we've witnessed, I think that's the most bizarre. I think that's the most unexpected. I mean, when you're a month and a half away from the end of the season, and you're just hoping you'll get through the first round of the playoffs, and you win the stinking cup. I mean, who saw that coming?
No, did not. And you know, it may also have been the most satisfying, besides being the most unexpected.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. And to do it in a salary cap a second time in a salary cap year is just tremendous. I mean, you know, this is definitely. I mean, this is the Steelers of the 1970s in Pittsburgh's eyes. This is the premier franchise now.
It is. It truly is. And you can tell by, I mean, the viewership, the fan support, it's different. And it's also a younger crowd than it is at the Steeler games, too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have the best marketing. They have the best front office. I mean, certainly have the best talent on the field of play. You know, and they know how to treat their fans. I mean, that's important too. And they're good community guys too. I mean, they do a lot of stuff in the community. All top-notch organization. Absolutely. The only negative to it is last year I bought a Stadium Series Tom Kuhnackel jersey at the stadium for $30, and you know, I'd hoped to wear it while he was on the team. And you know, well, so did Tom Kuhnackel. I'm sure he did. But you know, but it's probably going to be an interesting hockey season. But my friend, can I tell you, I think it might be a more interesting college football season this year. Oh, there will be intrigue, Dave, and there may be talks of revamping the whole thing because of this year. Oh, absolutely, because the wild card is finally playing some national championship caliber football. The wild card that is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which, by the way, did I tell you I'm going to make my first trip to South Bend this week? I know. Say hello to Touchdown Jesus for me. I'm very envious. I'm pumped. I know. I've given Tony the word that he may have to sit and suck up 60 minutes worth of a blowout, because you don't make that trip to leave in the third period. No, you don't Uncle Ed that one. No. Uncle Ed is not going to be a factor in this one, my friend. But right now, I mean, I look at it. I mean, Alabama and Georgia are obviously one is going to lose to the other in the SEC championship game. Other than that, they're not going to lose, and their power of the schedule is such that I don't see the committee
not including an 11-1 SEC team. Notre Dame is going undefeated, so they're in. There's no way they're not in. So that leaves 4 of the 5 power conferences fighting for one spot. And could there be anything more intriguing in this, or anything that just screams out for change to an 8 playoff system than this?
There's going to be a lot of pissed off boosters that are going to start that claim, and that's where it's going to start with. I mean, here's my Final Four, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not going to involve Pitt, unless somehow the only involvement Pitt may have is if they somehow upset Notre Dame, because that's about the closest Notre Dame's going to come to a loss, I think.
That's about it.
My Final Four, I've got Clemson, I've got Alabama, which just chaps my ass. I've got Georgia, and I've got Notre Dame. Clemson, I think, has the easiest pathway.
I would agree.
Notre Dame, the advantage they have is they don't have the burden of a conference championship game.
Right. And I mean, we both know this is as much about who can sell tickets and who can sell ratings as anything else. And while they'll deserve to be in, they'll be in the top 4. But you're not going to turn, if Notre Dame's 6th in the country, you're going to put them in the Final Four.
You have.
Yeah. And they won't be. I mean, they're 5 now, so they'll be in there. But I would agree with you. I think the ACC is a weak conference this year, and Clemson will be undefeated and will go through. I mean, Wake Forest is I don't want to say good. They're above average, decent team this year, and they got their. I mean, what was it, 66-3 by Clemson, by a pissed off Clemson team. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they have a fairly easy shot. I think Miami is a weak conference leader in the Coastal. I don't think there's nobody in the Coastal Pitt can't beat.
No.
But there's nobody in the Coastal that can't beat Pitt. So that's the kind of conference it is, a bunch of average teams.
The
Ohio
Pac-12
State
sucks. So they're not going to even get a sniff. You have Washington that barely beat a really shitty UCLA team. Big 12 got rocked by Oklahoma's loss to Texas.
And West Virginia's just not, they're not good enough.
I can't believe in them. I was just going to say that. I don't believe in them, although I got to tell you, I love watching their quarterbacks slinging the ball all over the place. But I don't think Ohio State's that good. Do you?
No, I think it's going to be very controversial if they go 12-0 and Georgia knocks them out. But I think that's exactly what possibly could happen. But I agree with you. I don't think they were better than Penn State last week. I think Penn State just choked in the last few minutes, and they also gave the blueprint on how to stop the Ohio State offense, because I think except for the last 5 minutes of the game, they did a wonderful job at that. And Franklin gets the bonehead coach of the week. You take 2 timeouts. How many times have you seen that? You take 2 timeouts to decide to run up the middle on a 4th and 5.
What does that make him, Dave?
Makes him a busher.
It makes him a busher indeed. So you have weak reps in the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the Big 10. So the second SEC team's going to sneak in. I agree with you 100%. I think we need to move to 8. Think of last year. I would have loved to see UCF in it last year. Can you imagine them pasting either Urban Meyer or Nick Saban? Imagine those smug asses going down. Wouldn't that have been beautiful? That would make college football great again.
It would be.
In the words of our imperious leader.
We'll get ahead for that. I agree with you. I think UCF actually is a worthy playoff team. I thought they were worthy last year, and they're even better this year. And obviously, who's going to beat them at this point? I mean, they're done with any semblance of a tough team.
Well, who's ever going to schedule them?
Yeah,
you got to be nuts.
Yeah, I would love to see, and I was thinking about this earlier today. Certainly, it'd be nice if the ACC could slip in there and add UCF to the league. But I can see them becoming an advantageous team to add. I mean, the Big 12's looking to add, and that would be another powerful football team.
I can't see the ACC ever adding them because Pitt would howl, because that would take away one of their few remaining fertile recruiting areas. So I just don't think they'd ever let that go through.
Well, you're probably right. And the ACC is looking for two more, not the ACC, the Big 12 is looking for two more schools. So it probably would be a better fit there, but I don't see any better team you can add in the Big 12, because right now you need a team that is capable of going undefeated every year.
Right.
I don't know that they have that, because when you play the pinball type of game that most Big 12 teams play, TCU a little different with that, but certainly don't have the offensive talent to go undefeated. But when you play that pinball type of offense, it's tough to go undefeated, because inevitably your defense is usually not the strength of your team, and if the offense has a bad week, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But I
well, the other thing too is, the thing that hurts them long term is, you're not prepping these guys for the NFL experience, particularly at some of the skill positions.
Right, absolutely. It becomes tough to recruit. That was always, say what you want about Wannstedt, he got those players in with that promise. And, that to me is a big issue on why, and Nick Saban can get some guys in there. His quarterbacks haven't always been the most talented, but you know what? They get the opportunities in professional football. Certainly a plethora of running backs and wide receivers make it from there. When you can offer that kind of thing to a young kid, you got an advantage.
Definitely.
But
I think we need to make that move to 8, and I think that what will happen after this season, because, as you said, there's going to be some power conferences left out in the cold. They're going to say we need to open this up to 8, but they're going to position it as they're going to be trying to take care of the UCFs of the world, and not so much for themselves, because frankly that would look like they were spoiled and.
It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work, would it, if they came off that way? But you're right. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're giving to the other schools. But
yes, because it's the altruistic power conferences.
It is, and realistically, what would make sense? The 5 conferences get automatic bids. It's deserved. They are the best. If there is one of the other guys that, say, is in the top 10, top 12, they should receive an automatic bid at that point. And, if you have a team that's good enough like UCF to be ranked that highly, let's see what they can do against the big boys.
Yeah.
And that would lead.
You talk about ratings. People would tune in to see that.
Sure, they would, because
we love two things, Dave. We love dynasties, and we love David versus Goliath.
Exactly, and you love seeing dynasties lose. That's why you love the dynasty. You're spot on, and you don't have that. You're not going to have that in a 4-man outfit when you don't have even up rules. We've talked about this many times.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're scheduling the equal amount of top-tier opponents. That's part of it too. It's not just the making it 8. There are a few other little reforms that need to happen there, because you can't be scheduling cupcakes as much.
No, and getting an automatic bid by winning your conference would alleviate scheduling cupcakes. I can see the first game of the year. You want to get out there, you want to try out new things, and you don't want to lose. Okay.
You want to get teams like Duquesne a nice payday. You schedule
Exactly. But you get Alabama, who takes it to a new level. I'm gonna read you off some of these powerhouses that they play outside their conference. Arkansas State, which, correct me if I'm wrong.
Is that the Fighting Hillbillies of Arkansas State?
Exactly. We've come off a big victory against Louisiana Lafayette. And you have the next to last game of the year, why you're doing this on the next to last game of the year. You're facing the Citadel on the next to last game of the year. So,
not exactly a schedule that you can get behind.
No, and if I'm a Alabama booster, don't get me wrong, I'm loving winning national championships after another, but I don't know that I want to pay top dollar to go watch Louisiana Lafayette, Arkansas State, and the Citadel, especially on the next to last game of the year. The next to last game of the year when you're gearing up for the playoffs. What the hell are you playing a team like that for?
I guess you're resting your starters after a while. I don't know. I don't get it. I hope that's what happens, and it comes back to bite them in the ass.
Right. Which on the other end, like last year, you did not win. But you got in playing a schedule like that, so you can't even claim strength of schedule.
No.
So, I mean, it is that's what would be eliminated with an 18 playoff. Yeah, you'd still most likely get a second SEC team in there, but at least you can find out who the best conference is. And you don't need any more. You don't need to stretch it to 16. You don't need to stretch it to 32 or whatever the hell. 8 teams. You can figure out who the best in the country is off those 8 teams, and every game would still matter.
Yep.
But
I say we watch it because I really think it's going to happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, the way this playing out, and the way Pitt played against UCF and the way Pitt played against Penn State, I don't see any way in God's green earth that they come close to Notre Dame.
13-9, Dave.
13-9.
9.
I know what you're saying. But I just think you're so damn small on defense.
Clemson, Dave. Clemson.
I know. But you had James Conner, and you had a good offense against Clemson. 13-9. That was a game they just should have lost because West Virginia had opportunity upon opportunity. That was one of those things where you just blew so many opportunities and Pitt got a little confident.
Well, you know what? That's a game that if they play 10 times, West Virginia wins 9 of them.
Exactly, and wins them comfortably. It would be great, and I've already made the claim, although I'm told by my good friend Mary Beth Spittler, who is nicely hosting us, up there, that it's a tame crowd, so I can wear my colors without the fear of retribution. But I think if Pitt upsets Notre Dame's national championship run, I best have a backup shirt in the car.
Well, that's the question I wanted to ask you. Are you pulling out a Hugh Green for this? What are you wearing to this?
Well, originally I was thinking just going sweatshirt. I'm not going to wear my favorite hat because, again, there's that fear of risk. But I might pull out the Dorset.
Oh, that's not a bad option either.
The only reason I won't pull out Merino, because Merino was the first thought because it's going to be an away game, and it's they have the white Merino shirt. But I keep thinking 48. 48-14. And it's scaring me. It's scaring me, I tell you. But I'm going to pull out Dorset, I think, on this.
I think it's a good call. Although I might go Hugh Green because why not wear the greatest player ever to play at that university?
He certainly was. I'm trying to think, though. I don't know that he ever beat them, though.
No. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, you have to wear the Dorset because of the way he ran wild against them. Absolutely. My bad.
303.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
I mean, that was the thing. We'll go Dorset on that, and if it gets ruined, it gets ruined. It's going to be good football weather this weekend. It's going to be 50 degrees, little sun, little wind, so it'll be nice football watching weather, unlike what you went through yesterday.
Oh, that was brutal, and always, I always forget when I use those tickets that I'm sitting on the sun side of the field and what that involves.
Right.
So I definitely need to invest in the away jersey because that black thing was brutal yesterday. That was some oppressive heat. much like the oppressive heat that Mr. Matt Ryan saw yesterday.
Oh, he certainly did. He certainly did. It was a pass rush that has certainly been lacking consistency, but they put it on him yesterday. The dear T.J. Watt, now what is it, 6 sacks, tied for the lead in the NFL.
Yeah, and he got them in 2 games. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that's actually my story of the week, Dave. If we're making a transition.
Let's transition. Give me your story of the week, my friend.
Well, my story of the week is that the Steelers finally showed up, particularly their defense. And if it weren't for a missed extra point, I'd say they played a near flawless game. Ben and Antonio seem to be in love again, which is nice to see. For the first time,
and it warms the heart too. I kept looking at the TV those last few weeks. Why can't those silly guys just get together?
I think they had to talk it out. And I think they get a little reach around and move on. So, but here's the thing, Dave. For the first time in 8 regular season games, they gave up fewer than 20 points. That's half a season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, man.
And, one of the things I do like about sitting up high is being able to see everything, as it opens up. And, there might have been a few receivers, Atlanta receivers that were open. But the thing is, with that pressure, Matt Ryan had no chance, no time to find them. Hayden was a shutdown machine. I mean, Julio Jones, he came in there on pace for a 2,000-yard season, and he was shut out through 3 quarters. That's pretty amazing.
Oh, man.
So there was that. You mentioned T.J. Watt. He had a monster game. Not only did he have the 3 sacks, he also had the forced fumble. The key was, Dave, they didn't have him covering a wide receiver. They didn't have him going back in coverage. They attacked, we're not privy to being in the building during the prep week, but it seems to me that based on some of the interviews that I had heard, that Tomlin stepped in and took more control of this defense. Because he had said before the game that they're going to see a little bit more aggressive Steeler team, and they did. And here's the other thing I liked about yesterday, Dave, and afterwards, is that Tomlin, he wasn't ready to say that this team is back, because there's still some work to be done. And the way he put it was a complete Tomlinism when he said they still had the stench of September on them, which I thought was just perfect.
Oh, that is perfect. That is perfect, my friend. And I mean, it must have been just a fun game to finally be at.
Well, I mean, it was a bit of a depleted Atlantic team, so let's not get too carried away. But I mean, James Conner ran hard. He caught the ball well. I think one bad Ben throw, which he had no reason, tossing that interception at the end of the half. But I mean, the way he said is, hey, look, I have the world's best wide receiver. I put a ball up there, and I expected him to get it. So
yeah, and do you think they carry this out through the year?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes to our prediction time. But what's your big story of the week?
My big story of the week, my friend, is what's happening on the campus at Pitt. And I don't mean basketball. I don't mean football. But I mean something that is a testament to what Heather sees at Pitt with the coaching hire she makes. You have a volleyball team up there that is 17-0 in the ACC, and the ACC, I mean, it's not one of their strongest sports, but I mean, certainly competitive in it. But Pitt is the only undefeated team in the country next to BYU, one of 2 undefeated teams. They are 4th in the RPI, looking like they're going to get an NCAA home game. And it highlights how the the Olympic sports at Pitt are changing because of this woman's vision, because of this woman not giving in to, well, we can't compete against the South in baseball, or against warmer climates in soccer, or against the West in volleyball, or hell, even against
look across the state in Penn State. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's and the baseball coach at Pitt, Joe Dordano, was a great guy and did a wonderful job for years with.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I was shocked that they made that move.
Well, shocked, and I was too. And I think he's a solid coach, and you know, they didn't give him what he needed to compete, but on the other end, they got a guy from Florida State who knows how to get players. So is that Heather saying, well, you know, we're making, we're happy or proud of what job you did, but we're not happy with where we are. We're not happy at where we're thinking this is the best we can be. But as I go on, we have a little surprise, Fletch. We have Gary the Troubadour Kinn that has just joined.
I thought I heard the arrival.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry. I guess I misinterpreted, Dave, our electronic communication. I apologize.
No problem. No problem. I was saying it was time to go to 8 teams in the playoff, and not 8 o'clock. I apologize for not being clearer, Gare.
Did I miss the whole podcast?
Well, we're going to give you a shot here.
We're definitely going to give you your time, especially when talking about your story of the week. We're about there, but I'd like to hear just your thoughts about moving to 8 teams in the playoff. Okay.
Again, gentlemen, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were going 650, and I didn't realize. I guess I missed it.
Not a problem.
No problem.
I was just talking about the Pitt volleyball team being 17-0. You know, certainly capitalizing on Heather Lykes' vision for the Olympic programs. Men's soccer has the ACC in soccer has 5 or 6 teams in the top 8 of the RPI, and Pitt has either defeated ranked teams or they've come very close to beating them in men's soccer. So it's just not giving in to Olympic sports in the North. Can't compete with the other schools, and I really respect that. And Pitt,
well, Dave, you're so fond of the nicknames. I think we need to give one to Heather. I think we should be calling her Heather What's Not to Like.
Oh, I like it. That's very Burmanese.
Oh, well, now you hurt my feelings. I'm going to just sit here quietly now after that one.
Well, we're gonna let Gary. Gary, before we get your big story, I'd like to hear 2 things from you.
Okay.
We were breaking down our thoughts of the NHL. I think we're both on par with Sharks coming out of the West. Fletch thinks, and I hope he's right, that the Penguins are going to win the Stanley Cup. I think the Sharks are going to win the Stanley Cup with the Penguins making the Final Four, Tampa coming out of the East. Where do you see in the NHL? We both commented at the beginning, giving you credit for firing us both up about the NHL this year and boxing.
Well, again, I apologize. I'm not really a big part of this podcast. Now, I, again, misinterpreted the message.
Not a problem. So just,
I think, we're not going to have a lot of time now. We talked about the time with these, Dave. But, look, I do think San Jose will come out of the West to start there. I think primarily the acquisition of Carlson. Of course, all of this is qualified in hockey by injury and that factor primarily, but assuming all factors are equal, people have equal level of injuries or close. Carlson's not the stopper that people think he is defensively, other than the fact he can skate so much. But you got 2 of the best offensive defensemen, even though Burns is slipping a little bit. 2 of the best offensive defensemen on a team that like him, love him or hate him, but Evander Kane is a goal scorer. He's a big rig. He creates a lot of space. He was tremendously effective in the second half. Joe Thornton's not what he was, but he's also a big rig who gets the puck to everybody. Better goaltender than people realize in the East than Martin Jones. He's been that way for 3 years. Good coach in DeBoer. Won every place he's been, college, New Jersey, here. Got to think they're coming out of the West. I do think, as we know the time now, I think they could be challenged quite a bit, particularly by Winnipeg Jets, who may not have the season they had last year, but a very big team with a lot of talent, very few losses of key personnel. Nashville as well. I don't particularly like Laviolette's style, the way he pushes the envelope, particularly in the playoffs. It's cost him every place he's been, other than Carolina that 1 year, coming out of the strike. But that is a supremely talented team as well. Deep goaltending, quite a bit of scoring, best defense in the league. So those three teams, I think, are probably the best shot to come out. I would pick San Jose now as I see it. I think Vegas has gotten off to a really bumpy start, including today again in Buffalo. They're not sneaking up on anybody. The personnel they picked up, Peter Stastny and Pacioretty, are both technically centers, although I guess Pacioretty's going to play the wing. Takes a little while for centers to get adjusted to a new team, new wingers, and everything else. Nate Schmidt is out for that 20 games because of that disputed, steroid use. He will be back. He'll be fresher in the playoffs. I honestly think they'll be in the mix. I think that would be my final four. In the East, there's a number of teams that are on the wild card cusp, but we can talk about that as the season rolls on. I was going to predict that too, but for now I won't touch it since I'm getting in here way late. In the East, I certainly would like Fletcher's predictions to come true. I don't see it, although I don't think they are again being discounted by some of the media, including Canada, as on the downside. I don't think they're on the downside. I just don't think they are as deep of a roster as a lot of other teams. And I don't know. It's only 2 games, but I don't know if Murray was in there on Saturday, quite frankly, but he certainly didn't look good again against Washington in the opener. So, you don't know if it's head, you don't know if it's technique, you don't know if it's just an aberration or a bad start. But, if that's not right, I think there's a serious problem here. I still think they might make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to go very far. If he's right, I do think they could finish in the Final Four. I think in the regular season, everybody's going to go after the Caps like they say. Every team wants to gear up where they want to beat your Stanley Cup champion. That's all nice and good. The reality of the matter is a lot of Stanley Cup champions, with a rare exception, go pretty deep into the playoffs next year. And the signing of Karlsson is something that the average sports fan probably doesn't realize. This guy's one of the best defensemen in the league. He gives you everything: size, physicality, power play quarterback, big shot, steadiness. Signing him, a lot of the players that they brought up last year are still in place. There's very few significant losses in that roster, perhaps in the backup goalie, but I think that can be handled. I still think that they're a very, very live dog to go deep and perhaps come out again. I think Philadelphia may actually finish ahead of Pittsburgh in the regular season. Still have some question marks there. Still a lot of question marks in the goal. I think they might finish with more points than Pittsburgh. I'm not really sure in a playoff series. Again, all factors being equal, they finish ahead of Pittsburgh. I do agree with you, I guess, Dave, on Tampa. I think this team clearly has some issues when the chips are down. And so does the coaching staff. But again, similar to the Caps, it's an easy pick perhaps, but lots of goal scoring, lots of depth down the center, some good kids like Cirelli and some others they put in the lineup last year that really contributed. Big defense, steady defense, very good goaltender. I could see them and the Caps colliding again. I'm not really ready to predict who would win. I think a lot of people are picking Toronto because they're exciting. Tons of questions on defense. To me, still. Boston, I think last year got a lot out of a lot of people that nobody recognized. They're starting to getting some advancing age with Chara and Bergeron and some other people. So I do think those teams probably finish second and third. In the Atlantic, I'm not really sure.
Chara like Satchel Paige, as far as nobody knows his age.
That's true.
That is true. That is a good point. So, he was, 50-something when he was pitching last, or 55 or something like that? It was rumored.
I thought Chara was in his late 50s when he came to the Bruins.
I think he started not wearing a helmet. That's how old I think he is. And his stick was straight. There was no curve on the blade.
With Eddie Shore.
No curve.
Paired with Eddie Shore, I think, first when he came. Rask hasn't quite looked the same either. I think the Bruins are in the mix. Do I think they go very far? I don't know. I think the wild card is going to be a wild scramble. The team that was the hottest last year, because nobody sees them, nobody pays attention to them, nobody goes. We certainly had plenty of drama in the coaching staff and the front office by, making Gallant get his own bus fare back to the airport after they canned him. But Tampa's got a lot of young talents, got 2 experienced goaltenders. Luongo's getting up in years. They're not asking him to play every day anymore. I think they could be a surprise in the playoffs. I think they will make the playoffs. I think nobody's really talking about them. Yeah, you can say they played with no pressure, but I don't really care. They were the hottest team in the league last year for the last 2.5 months. They missed the playoffs by 2 points. Nobody wanted to see them. So that would be my prediction. I guess if you had to ask me, I'd probably bet right now on the Caps, and I'd probably bet on San Jose with a possibility of a Tampa Bay or a Nashville or Winnipeg coming out of the West. So.
All right. Now we'll go to our next question. Do you think that this having Notre Dame and looking like Georgia and Alabama in 3 of your Final 4 spots forces an 8-man playoff to screw out?
I think that yes. I think it forces it more from a potential revenue standpoint. I think the talk of I'm not really sure looking at the rankings now. Honestly, anybody after the first 4 is as good as they have sometimes been ranked, and that includes Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, has some issues. They played really well lately, particularly defensive line. West Virginia's clearly showing some issues. I thought a little bit again, the part I saw on Saturday. Washington always plays some pretty exciting football, pretty weak conference. Not sure how they stack up against any of Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, or Georgia. And I think Penn State, I still think, despite some of the points they've piled up, I still think they're overrated from what I've seen. There's no bias in it. Yeah. I do, but as long as UCF is hanging around 10, and some other schools have had good programs that are getting nowhere near this lately, like LSU and Wisconsin and some others, I think there's just going to be a clamor. And I think some of the bowls that aren't included in it, not the Rose or Sugar or Orange or the big ones they include in it, are also going to start saying, hey, like Fiesta and some others, hey, I deserve some of that money. All those hotel rooms and people coming in there and a TV deal for it and everything else. So I think it is going to happen. I do think, unfortunately, at the time that we're talking about this right now, I think the gap is pretty wide, at least in my view. I don't watch as much football until recently as you guys have, but from what I've watched a lot more this year, Georgia's got the toughest schedule of the 4. I think they could fall out of it. I don't think Ohio State and Alabama will. I don't think Clemson will either. Notre Dame may make it. This isn't the toughest schedule that they've ever had. I think there's going to be quite a bit of jumble after them.
I think if you get an undefeated Notre Dame team, the committee puts them in.
I agree. They always get a favorite bias. I agree. Yeah. I agree. They may deserve to be there if they do that, in my view, and they stay near this pack.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how they do yet, despite that record that they have at 6-0 versus those other 4 teams, at least from what I've seen. But I don't know if this is the year to use as an example that it should be. At least that's my view. But I do think you're going to see it eventually. I think it's the same discussion we have been having on these casts regarding baseball expanding, whether or not there's too many teams in hockey or basketball for these playoffs, whether they should all be there. I just think this is going to go that way. And I think you kind of still have a dead zone. These guys are near professional athletes. You have a dead zone after maybe the first weekend of December with all these conference championships now. Right. There's about 3 weeks in there where they're taking time off, and I guess they're studying, so to speak, and they're getting prepared for a bowl game. There's no reason you couldn't have another round of playoffs.
Hey, Gary,
studying.
When you said that, did you make air quotes? I didn't know where that they were there.
Yes, Fletch, I would absolutely make air quotes in that.
See, that's where Dan Patrick has an advantage over us, because you can see the air.
But we've got Gary, who's much better looking than Dan Patrick. So we've got that.
Without a doubt.
Thank you for that. Thank you for
He's
that.
the Fabio of the podcast world.
I do appreciate Fabio and all the accomplishments he had in the past.
Yeah.
So, air quotes exactly. This has become as much a money business as anything else, professional or collegiate or whatever. Is one more game going to really cause so much consternation and injury for these players, or coordination for using other bowls and stuff? I don't think it is. So I think we're going to see it, and I think you're going to get continued clamoring from the conferences again that just can't quite get represented. Right. I think some of them, similar to Duquesne going to West Virginia, getting its brains beat in for $330,000. Some of those say, let me just get in the bucket. If I get in the bucket, I can market better. More people are going to buy tickets. More recruits might consider us. I mean, and I think that lobby's going to be heard. I just do. So.
All right, bring us home, Dave.
I'm sorry. Fletch.
Bring us home, Dave. Bring us home.
Okay. Well, this actually, I brought us home. It's Gary's turn for his big moment.
Oh, okay, that's right.
I don't have the Panther volleyballers.
I'm not as creative as Fletch, and I'm not as well-rounded as you, Dave. So I don't have huge ones here. I think my big moment.
Well, what are you saying?
I think a lot of the world. I'm saying that you're more well-rounded than me, and Fletch is.
Oh, I thought you were saying you don't.
He just called you a fat guy.
I didn't know what that meant.
I think that's what I just heard. He said Finoli's a fat guy.
I don't think I said anything of the sort. I think the fact of the matter is Dave is far more creative than me, and Fletcher, so are you. So, I'm a cold-hearted bastard.
Oh, that's right. I forgot what our roles are. My bad. Go ahead, Gary.
He's a good-looking, cold-hearted bastard. He's got it all.
I'll say, I am calling in. I'm going to start calling into this show, even if I want it.
All right, man. What is your
moment of the week? Is the Milwaukee Brewers in mass. I mean, I think there's a ton of people. I got people. I'm down at the Jersey Shore this weekend. I'm with another person, a relative of Patty's, and having lunch. We're talking about stuff. Guy hears me talking about sports. Guy comes up to me, doesn't even know me, says, I'm rooting for the Milwaukee Brewers. What a great story. And I like those guys. And I think that a lot of America's saying that. I honestly think, this small market stuff is in people's ears. They've had a great September, pretty exciting. No big name unless you really know this, like we do, Yelich and Kane and some other guys. Most people don't see it that way. And they go out and they sweep a team that actually played pretty damn well over the last 3 weeks of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I got to believe that's my moment of the week, just their victory, their run in September, their victory. And honestly, I still feel that, I don't know, I just don't feel good, even if this Dodger team comes out of this series. They got better things on paper, and they're far deeper. And I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people think.
Could this be the segue into your prediction of the week?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think I think my prediction of the week was going to be that I was going to reverse some of my field a little bit about the previous, and I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I mean, I honestly think that I don't know what happened today, so that sounds awful on something like this. But I'm predicting.
You had me feeling excited about the Astros and my dear Indians, my precious dear Indians. You had me fired up.
Was I completely and utterly wrong?
It was bad. 11-3 today.
All right. So what I was going to say is I had actually predicted the other two on the other side, and my prediction is going to be not necessarily about that series, but even in the other one. I actually think, based upon what I'm watching, I kind of think Boston's going to come out. So I think I was dead wrong. So it's kind of a confirmation of how little I actually do know. One.
It's the Chief Wahoo now too.
Is it really? Is that
over?
Are you serious?
He's done.
Done.
That was his last game.
That's an important part of all this, right? I mean, that's something that's really. I mean, I'm not being facetious about them being taken away.
I'm wearing them proudly right now.
There you go.
I personally think, my irritation with that whole thing, if we can digress here, is the fact that Major League Baseball makes a big issue to end Chief Wahoo. But I have emailed them several times to find out what have you actually done for Native Americans as far as helping to make their plight better. And, of course, they've done nothing except do something political and take a cartoon character off a hat.
And you never get an answer. You never got under Selig, and you never get an answer out of that office.
No.
So, that stuff, separate issue. I mean, I think I am a little bit surprised, which isn't a prediction. I'm a little bit surprised the Indians were that meekly gone. And I think, it's funny. If you really watch that Yankee team, they can be very exciting, but it's really not a very well-rounded team at all.
No.
And, the bullpen's great and all that stuff, but, that starting pitching, no matter what happens this series, I just don't think they're going very far.
Yeah.
And I think my prediction was going to be that, baseball, what I said the previous week, discount it, sadly. I think it's the other two teams. So.
Okay.
That's it.
Very good. Mr. Fletch.
Well, I think I would have predicted that Andrew McCutchen would get his first postseason RBI had we met last week, but that unfortunately that didn't happen. But McCutchen did get it, so there's something there. But for me, guys, it's my prediction is the Steelers are going to actually go into Cincinnati and leave with a victory. Here's the reason, guys. They were blitzing like a mofo yesterday. You had, like I said earlier, T.J. Watt was not covering wide receivers. What a concept that is. I think that Cincinnati has won some games they probably shouldn't have won. I mean, they got down big and roared back against Miami, but Miami didn't protect the ball particularly well. And I think that if the Steelers reverse form and they're the team that gets out with a big lead, I don't think Cincinnati comes back on them.
Do you think they can maintain this new hard-ass run-first mentality?
Well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit. It was a depleted Atlanta defense, no question about it. But there are a couple things that happened. I mean, I don't know if you heard the interview that De Castro gave after the game, but he talked about what a pleasure it was blocking for James Conner because he's just a great kid and he's humble and appreciative. If that wasn't a shot across the bow to Bell, I don't know what was.
Yep. Well, what do you think happens if Conner keeps this up? I mean, Bell comes back the week after in the bye week.
Here's the thing. I mean, I think they could possibly win the division with Conner, but I think if they're going to go any further than that, if they were to get in the tournament, so to speak, I think that Bell gives them the better chance. Now, I think that there will be some grumbling, especially among fans and everything, but the players will accept. If they feel that he can help them win, they will accept him. But I think it's nice that you have this option. The thing that I was really concerned about with Conner as opposed to Bell was that at some point he was going to miss a blitz pickup and Ben was going to get knocked into next week, but so far we haven't seen that happen yet.
Well, he actually there was one clip showing him. It was right before he went out and caught a clutch third down pass, where he took a nice shot at a blitzing defender on his way out. It was a very impressive play.
Yeah.
And then he caught the first down pass. But I agree with you. I think Connor's a great story. Bell is a great player, and that's right. That's the difference.
Well, I didn't see the game, guys, but that position takes a lot of beating. And just because Bell comes back in week 8 or whatever doesn't mean he's not going to get a little messed up. At least now you got somebody you can count on a little bit, which I think is also a good thing. And, you got 4 wide receivers you throw the ball to. There's no reason you can't have 2 running backs always fresh. I mean, New England used that for years. Good teams in the past used that for years. There's really no – Conner doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to say, hey, I did all this, in 5 games, so, I'm annoyed. He may very well be. I hope he is. But on the other hand, I also think he's probably going to realize, hey, this is probably going to help us get there. I got plenty of career ahead of me here or elsewhere, it appears.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue as it would be to the other guys coming back. So, I didn't see any of that. I didn't talk about any football here because I didn't see much recently. But, I was stunned when I looked at the score. I didn't know all the depletion of the Atlanta defense, some of that stuff. But the NFL is kind of getting a little bit like some of the other sports. It's even if you think you know everything and you're fully prepared, you really get a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
And I guess that means there's some parity and stuff. But, I'm a little bit stunned at that, as to how they won that and by how much. So, this may be the uncertainty you're going to see all year with them. I agree. The lineman comment. It's kind of a shot at, a guy who's not here, when you come in.
Had he been up front all year, I think there's a different attitude among Steelers players.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
But,
I mean, that was one I thought was a loss when we talked about their potential season. If I'm even close to right, which I certainly haven't been in some regards lately, but if I'm even close to right, you put that one in as a surprise, turn it the other way, a W, not an L, that season could even look a little better.
All I'm going to say is, you recall the last time the Steelers started 1-1-1?
It would be 1974, the first year of bringing home that Lombardi Trophy.
It would be. So, I am not among the horde of people that feel Tomlin needs fired every year. I think this guy has proven time over time in tough situations, even his worst year when they start out 2-6, 2-7, something like that, maybe even 2-8, and he brought him back for a 500 season. He doesn't lose teams, and
no.
This is the way these guys harp on line is the new athlete, and Bill Cowher wouldn't stop him, and quite frankly, I don't think Chuck Noll would have stopped him with the way it is now. When you're dealing with a guy, as we've often said, making millions of dollars before he hits the turf, there's no worries for him for money, so you get a different person. But I believe in Tomlin, and I don't know that they can win a Super Bowl with a suspect defense, but I think he gets them back into the playoffs.
I mean, whether or not, I don't always agree with the stuff we talked about before, answering tweet questions and stuff like that. But, I mean, you look at this guy's resume in there, it's pretty hard to find a lot of things to say that are bad.
Yeah.
And that might even be, I could be wrong. I mean, they may be some personalities in there that, you just had to thank him or whatever.
Yeah.
If he does that, he gets more out of him. I mean, maybe I probably wouldn't take that tact. I might not be as successful either. So I'm with you, Dave. I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that body of work over a period of time, it's a little hard to figure. I mean, he's not the one that's caused the cap problems and the thinner rosters and the making everybody compete. He's not the one that did that.
Yeah.
So you can question his input maybe sometimes on some of the picks and stuff, but the reality of the matter is he's not solely responsible for some of the weaknesses in that roster, particularly on the defensive side of the ball.
And he wins. He puts you in a position. They may not get to the Super Bowl, but he puts you in a position to get there. And to me, that's what a coach.
That's all you can ask for.
I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So, I mean, people tend to discount how hard it is to win titles. And you're not a failure if you don't get to the Super Bowl every year. That's he's doing what a coach should do.
Look, where you guys are sitting, and particularly for football, I think it's changing. I think hockey's probably gaining on it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. People out there are a little spoiled.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen that much, that frequently in a lot of cities that are much larger and for longer periods of time. So I completely agree with you on that as well, Dave.
Well, and the system is set up to try to keep you from having that prolonged success. So that's why you salute teams like the Steelers, the Patriots, that are seemingly there every year.
Yeah, I mean,
and that doesn't happen by accident.
In 26, that's impressive.
And it's bound to catch up with you. I mean, I think it's pretty remarkable what Belichick has accomplished, and some of them have accomplished up there. That division has historically been not the top three in that conference in terms of the other competition. Some of those teams have had a clue for years. Buffalo, Miami, some of them.
And if Mason Rudolph's going to be the quarterback, I don't think it ends. I think our kid is going to be, maybe not be as good as Ben, but he's going to be good enough to keep you winning.
No, I meant in New England. I was talking about in New England.
Oh, okay.
I think in Pittsburgh, until recently, most of the drafting's been pretty good, and they are always in contention, with rare exception.
Well, you also got 2 automatic wins a year with Cleveland too. Don't discount that, guys.
No,
I don't. You got 14 others though too. So
and that's the thing with New England. You're traditionally in the worst division in football. But again, once you get to the playoffs, and you got to stay in the NFL, a win is a win. There are no bad wins, and
Nope.
Other than those 2 franchises you just mentioned, take a look over the last decade. I mean, look at what's going on here. I mean, the big mouths here. This is going to be the new normal here.
Yeah,
they stink.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even that beat up. So, I mean, to go 10-6 regularly or 11-5 regular, or even get the first out of playoffs and lose, I mean, that's just not happening very many places in that league, or anywhere for that matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, Tomlin people need to get off of him a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to start talking about some of the drafting, some of the weaknesses, that's one thing. But I just think, Pittsburgh, people are far nicer. I think there are far more heroes out there, but they really don't have a clue on what the heck it's like in a lot of other places over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Flyers haven't won a Stanley Cup, been to playoffs numerous times since 1975.
Yeah,
and Chicago Cubs went
800
plus years without winning a title.
Yeah.
I mean, these are good organizations in some regards that had a lot of winning seasons. Baseball is a little goofier with the way the ball bounces, just like hockey is. But, try to figure out how many teams have had some of the success the Steelers had through many different kinds of eras. Salary caps, defensive-oriented eras, passing eras. I mean, the organization's still a good one, despite the fact that obviously now we've got two prima donnas who just need to be thanked.
Right.
So, I mean, it's still a very, very good organization, and I think you get spoiled and your expectations get a little skewered. Pittsburgh as well, the Penguins as well. I mean, last year, as you said, Dave, they were within one knuckle shot of extending that series and potentially winning it.
Right.
Against a team that ended up rolling through two very good teams to win the Stanley Cup.
Which, as I said to Fletch earlier, one of the reasons I bought his shirt for $30 at the arena, the Stadium Series shirt, and I never had the opportunity to wear it for him.
I'll miss him.
That's
he
truly
was
sad.
Long and he did a lot of good for you.
Truly sad.
So, yep.
It's a sad thing. But
yep, I'll miss him.
I'm going to bring us home, gentlemen. And I know you guys are thinking, especially you, Fletch, that I was going to make a prediction on the Nippon Professional Baseball Championship of the SoftBank Hawks winning the Pacific League playoff, facing off against your Hiroshima Carp.
Konnichiwa, my friend. Konnichiwa.
I know. I could say SoftBank would win the title, but, I'm not going to go there. And I know you, Gary, were saying, Dave, please go to Jose Marino and tell me if he's going to survive at Manchester United. Which he won't. I mean, here's a guy so Buck Showalterian, a guy who wears out his welcome very, very quickly. This guy is considered the best football, and can I use the term football since we're talking Europe? Is that legal?
Yes, it is.
I suppose it is, yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So he's been a coach for now, he's in his 18th season. He's never been out of a job. And in 18th season, he has coached for 8 Manchester United is his 8th different club in 8 seasons. That's how quickly he kind of burns out his welcome, and he will soon be gone within the next 2 weeks there. But that's not what we're going to talk about, so I apologize. We're going to talk about the table in the Premier League, a league that has no salary cap, is worse than baseball when it comes to the haves and the have-nots, which generally means the race is fairly useless more times than not. It's usually a runaway. Usually you're more interested in the relegation race than you are the teams that are going to win the title. But this year, after 8 games, you have a mere 2 points separating the top 5 teams. 4 points, and 4 points is generally a game and a half because you get 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie. Separating the top 6 teams. You got the Wolverhampton Wolves. Fletch, I know you don their jersey several times. The third jersey, not the home and away ones, but the third jersey.
Well, I just want to know what their song is, though.
I'm going to find it for you. We'll play it next week. They have songs, but they came up from the lower division, and they're shocking everybody at 7th. But anyways, this is turning out to be one of the great races, and the reason I mention it is because Liverpool in their last 3 have played the three of those top teams, and they have gone 1-0-2 against them. And I reiterate, this has nothing to do with my intense love of them that saw me watching the final 15 minutes of the Manchester City game rather than watch the Steelers' first 15 minutes on Sunday. I don't know if that's legal or not in Pittsburgh. But 1 billion people watched that game worldwide, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But Fletcher, will you sing? Do you reiterate that you'll be singing the Jerry Lewis song if they hang on, as I'm now predicting?
Well, I will under one condition.
Okay.
And that is that you recognize that it is truly not a Jerry Lewis song, but it was made famous by Jerry Marsden of Jerry and the Pacemakers. That, my friend, is the owner of You'll Never Walk Alone.
Well, why does Jerry get the notification? What has happened to this Jerry Marsden that he hasn't gotten credit for this?
I mean, that's why they sing in the first place, because Jerry and the Pacemakers were a Liverpool band. The run just under the Beatles. But I think Jerry, I don't know if Jerry is even still alive. That will be my assignment for next week, to give the Jimmy Marsden update.
And I want to hear the Jimmy Marsden original version of this song. Because I'm sorry, a fat 60-year-old former comedian, after being up for 72 hours, where that tuxedo he was wearing has to be pretty damn right by that point. Him singing the song at that point probably doesn't give it the justice of Jerry Marsden. Am I not correct on this?
Jerry and the Pacemakers, gentlemen, a band you need to go back and rediscover. Let's just say that.
I'm going to do that.
What am I rooting for? Which team am I rooting to win here? So we need Fletcher.
You're rooting for Liverpool.
So I'm going to be dialing up in the middle of the night, getting the preview, and I presume this comes on Saturday morning or something.
It's Saturday or Sunday morning, anywhere between 7:30 in the morning and 11:30. Right, they're always one of the main games.
Liverpool, so we can hear Fletcher's pipes sing and give tribute to Jerry and the Pacemakers song as part of this.
There you go.
There's not something to root for more than that. I don't know what it is, Dave.
I'm saying. And do you have a tuxedo at home, Fletch?
I do, and it almost fits me. I mean, I'll have to drop 5 pounds.
That's okay.
Here's the thing about owning your own tuxedo, gentlemen. Every time you have to wear it, you feel like you're making money because you're not renting something. It's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling.
I agree with that. Yes.
I like that. So you're going to dress in the tuxedo, sing it, and we can post it on our Dukes Court podcast site on Facebook.
I will do that. I will practice.
I promise you won't try to make me friend you another time. Really pissing off Patty from what I'm gathering, Gary. You're talking a lot about that at home, do you? She mentioned the multiple Facebook friend dilemma.
I
know that if I get a Facebook request from Gary that it is an original since he's not on there. So
he's not on Facebook.
First of all, do we need to do this? Yes, I hear you, and I will do that. I'm a little when you're a genius like I am, it takes a while to accept something. Okay.
Well, this is a little like the Busher comment every week. We have to work in the Gary Facebook comment every week.
Of course we do. Right. So I hear that. So you may be sorry that you guys have ever. Be careful what you ask for. You may actually get it.
Well, I can see Gary posting all those cat videos now.
Oh yeah, I'm certainly on the way to that, Fletch.
He's working. He's going to be a mem writer. He wants to retire from what he's doing, so he can be a mem writer for Facebook.
Hey, now
or meme. What is it? What is the pronunciation?
How would you release
it's a meme.
Meme. Is it meme?
I have no idea. It's MEME. Is that what you're talking about?
Check out the big braid on Gary.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is. I think I'm a little bit slow on the uptake with some of that stuff. But
so we're going to have what you're singing with the Liverpool win.
I released such a private goal of mine in a public forum like this.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm waiting. You're gonna start out with the cats as Fletch predicted. Work your way up in the animal kingdom.
Yes, I am.
No.
I already tried the animal kingdom years ago, and it was a really very scary experience, so I've decided to pass on it.
You can recant that on Facebook. You can tell people. Get it lifted from your shoulders, Gary. To an audience.
An exorcism. Yes.
Well, you also missed that Fletcher and I have we've committed to bringing Shoo Shoo Rah Rah back to Duquesne.
Oh goodness, I was waiting on that. They're starting to play. They're starting to play on, I think, November 10th. So you guys will have some chances since you're in the near vicinity. And I honestly think all three of us ought to do that as part of a podcast and put that on video.
Shoo, rah, rah.
Yeah, I think we should go and stand in the, up in the corners where there's about 4 other fans. And, I think we should do that at one of these games this season. So. All right.
We're in. Bring back the Hugo chant.
Yes. Or bring him back. How about bringing him back?
Could be there too.
Well, he could probably start. Even as a dead man, he could start for that team.
I think he'd certainly contribute quite a bit. So.
I think he could. He always had to have his, before Pete Maravich wore the floppy sock, he would always, and this is a true story, he would have to find his same pair of floppy socks to wear before every game. He called it his jumping socks, or he couldn't play the game. There is your little-known Cy Hugo Green fact of the evening.
Well, the one thing I noticed is the sneakers of the 50s Knicks and Minneapolis Lakers and stuff like that have clearly made a comeback. I don't know if you gentlemen have noticed that, but the sneakers that are worn in some of these NBA games with the pure white sole and the no colors on the upper part, around the ankle, have clearly made a comeback from the mid-50s. I like to look at it.
I like it. If only those tight basketball shorts I used to wear would make a comeback. It'd make everything right again.
And they'd have to be shiny and silky too, Dave.
Well, I'll wake up screaming from that image tonight. Thank you so much, Dave.
Hey, you got the couch now.
Let's loosen the pipes now. You're going to have somebody who knows virtually nothing. I presume Liverpool is certainly in England. I should know that from my past spot.
Salah. Sing the Salah song. Learn it. Sing it next week.
I am clearly looking forward to this. This should be a highlight on the podcast next week.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. It'll be something good. And, we learned Fletch got a new memory foam couch that he falls asleep on. And this week you are Gary the Troubadour Kinn.
I'm sorry I missed the earlier part. Perhaps you gentlemen were
covers it all.
Through, so I apologize. And perhaps I should read the details. I apologize.
Miscommunication. That's okay. It happens, man. It happens. It happened on the Steeler defense for 2 weeks, but it's gone now.
I don't want it to happen here, though. So,
it won't, my friend. It won't. But I'm off to see if Drew Brees can beat the Peyton Manning record this evening, and see if Boston can rebound from just you never pitch David Price at a playoff game ever again.
Certainly not against the Yankees.
Send him to the minors. Maybe he has some options left. Every September, but.
This is
anyways, my friends, we'll talk more about Liverpool next week. Perhaps as Drew Brees breaks the record, one thing that kind of chaps my ass is that any time the GOAT is talked about when it comes to quarterbacks, we only consider quarterbacks in the last 20 years, and I think that's wrong. So perhaps we'll talk a little about that as we celebrate Drew Brees laying claim to GOAT, which he shouldn't lay claim to, but and we'll figure out more stuff. There's just going to be a plethora, and I promised I would use that this evening. I think I used it twice, if I'm not mistaken, Fletch.
3 times would make you a pusher.
I'm not going to go again, but we'll do that, and we will see you guys next week. We'll be one week closer to Duquesne basketball, and by the time we talk next week, gentlemen, we will have Unlucky 21 in our hands.
Yeah, that actually is fantastic. Saw that, Dave. Again, credit to you for those who are listening out there, putting it together, having the idea, doing all the work you did with it.
Yeah, I thank you, but everybody had great contributions. And, Gary, when I saw the Billy Conn belt at the History Center, I certainly thought of your fantastic story.
I appreciate the recognition. Patty showed it to me.
Your
guy asked me this weekend if we got more minutes here. I know we're probably running out of time, but
that's okay.
Guy asked me this weekend. He said, "Well, what did you learn?" I said, "I got to tell you." I said, "Doing that, I learned 3 or 4 things about the thing that I never even realized." So it was a ton of fun too. And
that was a good thing. We got better things coming. And Fletch, your lead story on Unlucky 21 is just going to be a highlight. People are going to love your take on that. The dear Brian O'Neill, who gave us a mention in the Post-Gazette. Was very impressed with the book and by that particularly. So,
has he
great
seen
job
it?
to both.
Just impressed by the idea.
I sent him a little preview of it, and
so he actually saw something there too, and he was happy with it. That's big news. Big and good news. Yeah.
So, a lot of good news coming up, gentlemen. But we will talk a little more about it next week. And so, Fletch, you go on the couch if you're not already there right now.
All right, gentlemen. We will see you next week.
You got it.
All right.
Gentlemen, talk to you soon.
This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.